It's time to embrace a youthful mindset and envision your future. Take the lead is in your world.
Take the lead is in your world.
This platform serves as a space for engagement designed to equip young people to become effective leaders. They are actively contributing, creatively engaged, and determined in various fields. And now, this is Take the Lead.
Hello, Africa. Hello to you, the young people across the sub-region. It's time for you to take the lead. Taking the lead with us on West Africa Democracy Radio, your youth exchange program, where we discuss insightful issues all about young people. I am Augustine Curley, and today we are identifying the barriers or challenges that are preventing some young people from acquiring higher education, or you may term it as college or university education, especially achieving these academic feats when they graduate from high school or secondary level. This is essential because to these challenges are added financial difficulties. We talk about tuition fees, we talk about housing, we talk about transportation, the social cost of living, forcing many students to take unpaid work at the risk of jeopardizing their studies. To some end, the dropping out because even obtaining their degree becomes a problem. Choosing a career path also presents a challenge, especially when they come out of high school, and this time around what they see is what different from exactly what they've been thinking about achieving in their lifetime. Some also find it difficult when it comes to the career choice from their parents. What they want to study becomes different from what their parents have been telling them to study when they graduate from high school. So, and you listening to us right now, or also watching us right now, some of you have experienced these issues. Some of you are currently experiencing them. You can tell us what you think about them. How can we address these difficulties? Just put in your comments on the live feed, and we will read them out live and direct right here on Facebook at WADR English, on YouTube at WADR News, and certainly your point will be well taken. In the studio with me, I have Yasin Job, and Yasin is a multilingual professional specializing in interpretation. A young lady right here in the studio. How are you doing, Yasin? And welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Augustine, and I'm so glad to be here today. I would like to thank you for inviting me. It is actually my pleasure to be here and to talk about this topic, which is very important. And I think all young people who have went through school, they can sense how important this is to talk about higher education, to talk about all the financial hurdles that young people they face. So I'm very glad, and I'm looking forward to this fruitful discussion that we all will have. Thank you.
You've been here for a couple of minutes, sitting and observing the movement. Give us your impression of our studio and the office since you've been here.
Yeah, I would say that I'm surprised, but in the positive way, because it is people here are very welcoming, and I can see the setup is very professional. I can tell that before this meeting, 2 days ago, I didn't know about your radio, and I went to Facebook and YouTube, and I see the incredible work that you are doing now, and I'm really, really glad to see that there is this type of media here in Senegal, and very honored to be here today.
We are privileged to have you as well, Yasin. Thank you for being here with us. And on my immediate right is Mugonga Pacific, sales manager at Blue Carbon Technology. He's also a software engineering student. How are you doing, Mugonga? Welcome again.
Thank you, Mr. Augustine. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
How are you coping with the work and the studies?
It's not easy, but as the theme says, we are breaking barriers, financial barriers.
That's interesting.
Yes, sir.
So welcome. We are glad to have you with us. Well, we also have Pole Emmanuel Nya. And Pole is a tough provoking youth and student activists at the University of Liberia. His records are all on the social media when it comes to advocacy, but we are privileged to have him with us. How are you doing, Emmanuel? Welcome. I guess you need to check your mic, Pulley. All right, and if you're just trying to get that, I think we will have to give you some minutes.
Am I set?
Yes, you are live now. How are you doing? Welcome.
So, I firstly want to say thank you for the opportunity extended me to sit on such an inspiring platform to have this kind of brilliant, mind-blowing, and entertaining conversations about the future of Africa. It's a pleasure for me as a student of Liberia and a student leader at the University of Liberia. I want to send my personal greetings to the comrades in studio, and I want to bring another special greetings from the leadership of the Student Unification Party, where I serve as Assistant Secretary General, the chairman of the party, Chairman Odysseus Modvasen. This greetings to the team, and I'm delighted and hoping for a very positive and fruitful conversation.
All right.
That will bring about meaningful change to this platform.
That's great. We are also happy to have you with us, Emmanuel, and we hope that you would certainly give your experience or share your experience with regards to what's happening in Liberia and the challenges many young people face in acquiring quality education at the tertiary level. We also have Sifa Daniel Wayo, and Daniel is a student leader at the University of Abuja, Nigeria. How are you doing, Daniel? Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm doing excellently well. Can you hear me?
Yes, maybe you can just put a little energy in your voice, but we are hearing you.
All right. I'm doing excellently well, and I bring greetings from Nigeria.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
too. Well, that's it. We have 4 panelists with us right here in the studio. But before we begin, let's remind you that in West Africa, where we are situated, more and more young people are accessing higher education. Every year, public and private universities welcome thousands of new students, driven by the hope of obtaining a degree and improving their job prospects. But for many, the university journey remains fraught with obstacles. WADR's Rose Samarakades in Banjul engaged some young people, including educationalists in the Gambia, and fight this report. Please listen.
Economic hardship continues to affect access to higher education for many young people who say financial constraints are preventing them from enrolling in colleges and universities. In the Gambia, some school dropouts say although they qualify academically, their families simply cannot afford the cost of further education. Others have postponed their studies to work and support their families while saving for tuition. Binta Jamme is one of those.
Families are stretching every dollar just to cover basic needs, so there's often nothing left for school fees. And scholarships are few and competitive. Many students also feel stuck having to choose between helping their family today with work or investing in a degree for tomorrow. It's exhausting to put your dreams on hold because of money, not because of talent or effort.
Students already in the university say paying for their education has become increasingly difficult. Many rely on support from parents, relatives, and scholarships or part-time jobs to cover tuition and other expenses. They also point to limited financial aid, high tuition fee, and the rising cost of living as a major barrier preventing young people from accessing higher education. Emma Gomez, a university student, highlights her difficulties before she had her scholarship.
So for the previous years, my parents were the one funding my schooling, and then at the same time, they also paying for my younger ones. I have another one that is also at the college, the one that comes after me. She's at the college and she's studying agriculture. So it has been difficult on their side, having to fund my schooling and my siblings as well.
According to educators, no qualified student should be denied higher education because of financial hardship. They also stressed that the government, schools, parents, and communities all have a role to play in supporting students and making higher education more affordable. Mr. Ibrahim Job is a teacher at St. Teresa's Upper Basic School.
The government will create at least skill centers. They can go and learn skills there to also sustain themselves. Because looking at it, if you go to GTI or you go to the University of Gambia, if they ask you to pay 42,000, you go to GTI, they are asking you to pay 35,000. So it is very, very difficult for a parents. If you're having 3 or 4 children, at least the government should try and look at so that they can help people. Because if you're having like 5 children, it is very difficult for you to pay each child 42 or 43. So at least the government should at least pay half of it, or the parents, or they should give full scholarship depending the child performance.
Some parents explain that they continue to make sacrifices to support their children's education despite rising household expenses. Many believe government should expand scholarship opportunities, introduce affordable student loan schedules, and subsidize tuition to ensure that financial challenges do not prevent young people from achieving their educational goals. Mr. Ibrahim Sajo shared some of the hardships they face as parents.
One has to sacrifice and make sure that your children are educated, because in this world we are now, without education, definitely you are nowhere. So one has to sacrifice. As my mom used to say, even if you are going to put on drugs, right, make sure that your children are educated, right? So we have to sacrifice. Sometimes you have to go without food to make sure that your children are educated.
As the cost of education continues to rise, many stakeholders agree that expanding financial support and improving access to scholarships and students' finances will be critical to ensuring that every qualified young person has the opportunity to pursue higher education regardless of their financial background. For WADR, Rose Samara Cates, Banjo.
Well, many thanks to Rose Samara Cates for putting together that wonderful report. At least we were able to hear from a representative regarding the students' community. We also heard from an instructor or an educationalist. It's interesting to also hear a parent expressing when it comes to how they support their children, why it's important to support young people to acquire quality education, especially at the higher level. But let's hear from you, Yasin. Firstly, what do you make of this report coming from the Gambia, given the situation in the Gambia regarding young people's education?
So yeah, Gambia is not very far from Senegal, of course, and I would say that we share the same struggles with the Gambian people. And what one of the parents said is really, really important. And kind of, I would say, it's a pity, because when a parent says they are not eating for their children to go to higher education, this is a pity as a government and as a society, because we all know that education is important, but money would never be on the way, because we all know that young people, they need that education. And after they have the education, they invest back in the community, because it's like a circle. If they don't have the education that they need, the society won't work. Because if a young person doesn't go to school or doesn't achieve higher education, we won't have the engineers, the software engineers, we won't have the entrepreneurs, we won't have the doctors that the community need. I say that the government should support, but also people. We should support at our level. For example, I would be a mentor to my younger siblings or younger people. Some of our youngest students, they want to know where to go, but they don't know. For example, they don't know programs for scholarships. They don't know programs for mentorship. They don't know which door to knock at. And our private sector isn't supporting them well enough for them to have the vocational training that they need to enter the work market at the end of their study. So yeah, I say that the government should do something, but as a society, we all need to do something at our level. And as tiny as our efforts are, just do something and start somewhere instead of saying, I can't do anything. It's not my job to do.
Well, it's interesting to hear from you, Yasin. What's about you, Mugonga?
Thank you very much. Higher education specifically is not only it's an investment. Apart from the fact that it is necessary, it is an investment, because without it, as my sister said, you can't have engineers, solutions that benefit the society and the people at large. You can't, with literate people, I'm sure you have a little bit of problems peacefully in general. I can give an example. You see, wars come out of propaganda, So if you have a little bit of people who are elite, who are a little bit aware, who have been acknowledged and literate a little bit, who have learned, they know history, they have a higher education to an extent. It is going to be hard for you to come and convince them things, ideologies and ideas that are going to cause trouble, if you get the point. So for people to get higher education, it is necessary, very necessary.
It is necessary. And now let's hear from Emmanuel Poli. What's the condition like for many young people? But I would love to firstly begin with your story, Emmanuel. How was it like for you to gravitate from primary, secondary, to now that you are even at the University of Liberia? Before talking about how is it like sustaining yourself at the higher educational level, give us a story of your background just for a few seconds, please. Emmanuel Poli, I hope you can work on your microphone. If not, we can.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So for me, I've had a very normal life, like many African children. The same struggle for maintaining education, keeping myself to college. I was reared by parents who sponsor basic primary education. And then the University of Liberia, that is currently now a tuition-free institution, then wasn't tuition-free when we enrolled at the university, because this was the only area that we could enroll to give us the opportunity to attaining or achieving higher education. Because all of private universities in Liberia is like really expensive. So the University of Liberia is like an attraction hub for the grassroots, the ordinary Liberians that cannot afford, the private institution of higher learning. So my matriculation to the University of Liberia has all been the basis of struggle to keeping myself tuition and fees. Now that we don't have it, but then when we enroll at the University of Liberia, like every African society, it has been a very tough journey for me personally as an individual. And this was one of our motivations to the struggle. We believe that in our own constitution in Liberia, education is a right. It's not a privilege. It's something that the government must provide, and the state must make sure that the citizens are educated. But on the contrary, what is in the constitution is different from the actuality of the application of the law to benefit every Liberians. So there is this huge gap in students wanting to enroll to college. So like I shared, it started yesterday from the Ministry of Education that reported in this year, 2026, not other years in consideration, that there were 57,393 persons that sat the West African examination exam. And in Liberia, that is the final test you will write in secondary level. When you get through, it means you are on your way to college or advanced vocational tertiary institution. Tragically for us as a republic, these alarming enrollment in tertiary institutions is very low, on the margin low. 9% is female, 15% in male is low. And many people don't have the access to enroll into higher institution because of poverty is the number one thing in Liberia because of poverty, the lack of unemployment, joblessness in homes, in communities, in everyday life, people struggle to just get a daily, a one square meal a day. So least to talk about having going to universities. So families often look at priorities. What are the family priorities for survival? So if the family think that the priority for survival is to get daily meals on the table of their home or their household. That's what they will gravitate their attentions to. So in Liberia, many households, many low-income families strive to provide food for their family and their children than to talk about sending the children to institution of higher learning.
Wow.
But this is the reason when the University of Liberia was declared free in 2019, then we had a enrollment of around 12,000. But since the university was declared free by the previous administration, we have had an enrollment currently stands to around 28,000. So it tells you the gap of people that cannot afford and see the University of Liberia as the only hope of attaining higher education. Because when you don't go, you go out of the University of Liberia and you are from a low income family, it means automatically you're not going to school. You're
Thank
not
you.
going to university.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, you are saying some very important points. Please let me just hold you there. We'll come back to you for details and other issues. Emmanuel, let's hear from Daniel. How is it like in Nigeria? Emmanuel, you are a student leader, and there are a lot of things you must have experienced and could be experiencing right now when it comes to the challenges that young people face in acquiring and even sustaining themselves when they are into universities or in colleges. Would you mind just sharing with us a bit of some of these issues that the young people, including you, facing there in Nigeria?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity, and thank you so much for having me on set today. Over here in Nigeria, actually, money actually used to be a major challenge. That's acquiring tuition fees and, accommodation and, the charges that comes when one gets admission. But to an extent now, I think the government has been able to provide a solution. I don't know how long that's going to last, but the current administration, they brought in the student loan where the government pays your school fee, and then they give you monthly stipends, and then you pay, I think, 2 years after school, and you've gotten a job. So that of the tuition fee, I think that has settled it in a way for most students who are less privileged to an extent. And then over to the other one, which is the accommodation. That's where the major challenges. Recently there has been spike in prices for rent and places to stay. Has actually been increasing the amount the collect for rent, the charge for rent is quite high, and I've been trying to engage some personnel involved to see how we can work on that. And then most universities in Nigeria, students don't have adequate hostels inside the school. So most schools don't provide adequate hostels in school for students to stay, and some schools still don't allow investors to come in and invest. And this is actually a challenge because hostels are way more better and cheaper for students than acquiring a house outside school, because most times getting a house outside school is even more expensive than even more expensive than your entire school fees for the session, and your entire school fee, and even the stipends you get for a session. So this is one of the major challenge students or young people over here face in our country.
All right.
regards to acquiring higher education.
All right. Thank you, Emmanuel. Now, we've identified some of these barriers or challenges that young people face. I am concerned about the preparedness of many young people from the secondary level. Are many young people really prepared to transition to higher educational level of training or education? Or are they focused or distracted by maybe the vocational training, the quick paid job that are available? Often that when a company advertises, it has this limited requirement that at least a high school graduate can apply for the job. Are they distracted by those issues, wanting to get quick money, or could there be other reasons? Are they really prepared in that sense? From you, Yasin.
So yeah, I would say that those type of proposals are appealing because when you just finish high school and you see easy money, that's what I could say, and you know that you have responsibilities. For my example, I'm the eldest of my family. We are all girls, and our parents, they really relied on me. So when I finished high school, that's just my mother wanted me to go to the higher education. But if it was for me only, for myself only, I would go through that route. And I would say that we are not prepared at all, and we don't have any financial literacy. For example, I've never told, for example, you need to plan your education costs, because we know high school is easy, nearly no cost when it comes to you just eat, you have lunch at your family house. But when you go to university, it's a whole nother level, because you need to support yourself, buy textbooks, acquire internet connection, and all of those hidden costs. We only focus on tuition, but tuition is a one-time payment, for example. It's not something, the main thing that make some of the people drop out of higher education, I would say, are transportation, accommodation. Because in our societies, in Africa, in Senegal, my practical case, it's very expensive, especially when you are in Dakar. It's very expensive for my little sister. She is in Dakar for her high education, but she's paying rent 4,000 francs CFA. And it's very, very expensive for a young child who just left high school.
Like regularly just going and coming from school in terms of a transportation?
Yes, every day. And, all those costs are not something that we talk about upfront. We just talk about tuition. And we need to prepare the young people at the high school level to know what they expect. I didn't know when I went to university, because all the students, college students that I saw, they were nicely dressed. And I thought that when you go to the university, you just need to look nice and to speak proper French, and then you're good. But when I arrived there and I faced the reality, I know that I'm not prepared. And that's not what I want for my youngest siblings and for my future children.
It's interesting. Yasin believes that many young people are not prepared, and there could be many reasons for which she explains some. But how was it like for you? Tell us more, Moganga, in terms of the preparedness. Like, were you prepared to transition from secondary level to tertiary level, or did it happen through the support of your parent or by God's grace?
Yes. When you grow and you're still in the basic education before you transition to the higher education, of course you grow. As my sister said, you want to go further. You want to make it higher, but it's not about being prepared. You're not aware.
You are not aware.
You don't know what's ahead. You don't know what's coming. You get a point. So for you think you know, but as she said, you get there and you find, oh, is this really what's happening? So parents, as we heard, a parent said that he cannot even eat. Sometimes they miss lunch, they don't have food, but they are really willing to take you to achieve where you want to go. So being prepared for the students, I'm sure in their mind they really want to do it, But there are other factors that contribute to when you get there. As the most important thing, you go. It's not about tuition. It's never about tuition. It's never about the school fees, but it's about the life you live there. You know, it's about the food. It's about you have to be having a mind straight to be able to pursue your studies. You know, you have to be. I don't know how to say it, but you need internet. You need transport. You need you need books. You need a laptop. You need social life. You get a point. You need a phone. All those costs sometimes are not given value, where you find that you think even the parents actually, you find that they also are planning on the tuition only. They are not considering the other side of the life, which is the most important actually, you know, because without it, it affects you where that tuition becomes even useless because you drop out at the end of the day. You get a point. So as the first question you asked me was, how do you manage sales manager and
Yeah.
so
Work and studies.
yes, so you end up going there with one vision. You want to attain higher education, you want to finish your studies, be concentrated. At the end of the day, you end up going in other things so that you can cope up with the yeah.
Wow, it's interesting. Let's hear from Polly. We get back to you, Polly. The issue about financial aid and scholarship. I'm certain that these are available at university levels, and sometimes we have government scholarships at university levels. We have private scholarships. We have financial aids. You know, there are other programs that provide support, financial support to students, and to some extent not even financial. It could be academic support, like moral support, in terms of how you go about on the campus, having sessions after regular sessions to brush you up about subject matters, having tutorials. But is it a matter of reality in Liberia? I wouldn't want to be specific about the University of Liberia, but in general, given the situation at the University of Liberia, which is the state-run university, could dictate how other university students are also, benefiting or not from this situation. How is it like? Can you tell us more about these support systems?
So yes, there are support system, basically financial aid. If there are government scholarship for University of Liberia students, I've now come across it as student leaders. But what we see often, the most major things we see and we think it is bad is there are political scholarship. That is, scholarship is awarded based on political lines. If you are a representative, you are a senator, you have your constituent base that maybe supported you during elections and this and that, and maybe they come to you and then you want to help. I think that's how it's done. And to the extent that we even have counties here that have their own individual scholarships slot. But what is done is that the concessions nears provide some fundings for this scholarship, or it goes in the office of representative or senators, that decide who it is given to. Like, it is something that we've been raising serious issues on. Like, for example, even at the Ministry of Education, the office of the Minister for Education has around 1.5 million for scholarship. If this fund actually goes towards sponsoring people in universities, in vocational institutions, is something that is not independently investigated, because the ministry doesn't give periodic report as to how many people benefit from this. So on a surface, yes, there are minimum help given to students, but it's on political lines. It's not on the basis of competence. It's not on the basis of the talent and the potential you have, but it's on the basis of political line. And we must be very clear about it because this is just the reality that I've observed as student leaders in Liberia.
Well, it's interesting. What about you, Emmanuel? I'm also concerned about the orientation aspect. Like Yasin said, the expectations sometimes are not reality. Graduating from high school and thinking about or envisioning how university life is could just be different, and in most cases, is different than what you expect. Is it a form of orientation that supports new students coming into the college or universities? Are the authorities or faculties providing sufficient support for new students who may just arrive thinking that it is easy, but it is not easy? And sometimes they arrive and see the difficulties. They are unable to adapt to those difficulties to transition, and sometimes they fall by the way and they drop out of university. Are there supports to keep these young students into the university level that despite the challenges, they can adapt and it takes time to overcome them and become successful?
So basically, the issues is, I don't think it's
I will come to you, Polly. I was speaking to Emmanuel. Daniel.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I was actually speaking with Daniel. Would you mind responding to this question, please, Daniel?
All right. Can you take it again?
Yes.
I didn't get it properly.
Yeah. Do universities provide sufficient support for new students with high expectation, thinking that all is just rosy because they name university, but when they come, given the level of assignments or courseworks, the research activities, and many of them fall by the way, are there support systems to giving them that emotional support, giving them that educational backing, just to rewind their minds and shift their understanding from high school level to now the broader level of understanding realities and in their studies?
Yeah, over here, when a student gains admission, the school and the faculties involved actually organize student orientations for the new intakes. So where they're enlightened more about life on campus, and then how to go about things on campus. And here in University of Abuja, the management integrated a mentor-mentee scheme whereby the students and the younger levels or the junior levels are paired with the ones from them in their final year or the ones in maybe their third year as their mentors while they are mentees to the students. So through that way, they still get to have someone that will hold their hands through this university journey. But it's still not an easy one anywhere because nobody actually expects what they're actually coming to meet in the university. But the thing is, when you're in, then you just need these people that will support you. And then we also have a guardians and counseling unit. So when you're already having academic overload or you're already freaking out, you can actually walk up to these offices and talk to a counselor, seek counseling, and they'll find a way around your problem.
All right, that's interesting. Now let's hear from you in terms of the lack of equipment, the impact of overcrowded lecture halls, lack of equipment, limited internet access. Some of these issues are also impediment to having quality education achieved. Was it a case for you, Yasin, or are you observing similar situation for the young students in Senegal?
Yes, because I studied in Gaston Berger University in Saint Louis. During my first year, it was manageable. But the second year, in 2014, I think the government had a new policy because University of Gaston Berger used to be an excellency university. But until 2014, on 2014 onwards, they oriented a lot of students. So we had overcrowded school classrooms, and that, I would say that it would be a consequence of not focusing on the class itself, because you have a lot of people, and the professor couldn't manage all those number of students. And it is still the case in Sheikh Anta Diop University here in Dakar, because there are a lot of students for just one class. They are overcrowded. Sometimes some students, they don't even find a place to sit, and it's like very remarkable when you see it, because you imagine that when you go to university, everything is controlled, under control. You have a proper classroom, a proper teacher, and proper lectures, everything. But it is not the case. And for so many young people, for example, I have little sisters, and some of them, they dropped out of university because it was not fitting, and it was taking a lot of time, because there are a lot of strikes as well.
Strikes.
Yeah, and they said, I'm losing my time, so I would go to vocational training instead of sticking in this higher education. It is not serving me. So these are aspects that we need to lean on more.
Yeah, indeed, it's important. That's a very important point, and I also believe it happens at if not all, but majority of universities where you have students strike, and to some extent even faculties are going on strike, or they have this sit-in action or sit-home action to address their concerns. But is it a major factor? But can we also look at the issue of stress, anxiety, the social pressure that sometimes becomes a problem or factor contributing to the academic failure of young people at university level for you, Mogonka?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Augustine. You see, the anxiety and everything comes out of the financial barriers we're talking about. You find that you're getting in university, you're motivated, you want to do things, you want to study, you want to do whatsoever, but when you get there, what you expected is not what you find. Things get different when you get there, because you get there, maybe you thought it's going to be a straight road, and then you find it's a little bit zigzag. And when I say zigzag, I mean there are those financial hardships. You get a point. They are necessary. The first person, even the other people who passed through that, and they made it there. That's the only hope that keeps you moving. But for sure, the most important thing, for example, in my country, the political system has to be able to help you tackle those obstacles. You're a student. Financial barriers are there. End of the story. They will be there. They will always be there. But then what can you do maybe to tackle them? You get a point. So as a student, as my sister said, imagine her younger sister now. She's having all of that things, and she's a young girl. She doesn't make money. What can you do for her to prevent that anxiety and everything? The government has come in. The parents, of course, will play their role. And if you can be also be able, but you don't have to even work as a student. You get a point. If you're a student, you have to be a student. You have to be a full-time student. You get a point. Now imagine, for me, I'm an engineer. Do you know how many codes I write at least in a day, in a night? Now imagine coping with that as a manager, and you have to also deliver and report to your bosses so that you can. That's the anxiety. Now. You get a point.
It's interesting. Now, as we gradually wind down, let's hit the nail on the head right now. What public policies or other help can we do or achieve to improve access and availability to higher education for many young people who are struggling today? And we begin with you, Emmanuel. Just for the next minute, just tell us, given your experience in Liberia, what can we do to ensure that these young people who are finding it difficult to achieve quality education at the higher level can achieve them, given the financial burden from their parents, communities, school, government, and whatsoever?
So, firstly, what I would say is that education must be firstly mandatory. Which will not be a non-negotiable stuff. Everyone must be mandated to go to school and go to higher education. In doing so, I think government or policymakers, universities can run what we call a tuition-free program. We think it has helped the University of Liberia a lot. And since the announcement, like I said, of the tuition-free program, there have been a very huge enrollment, even though the university has its own challenges of overcrowdedness, an environment that is not conducive. But to firstly boost enrollment, the free tuition policy has been a major help. The other thing we can do, the other thing I have to say again, the issues about an affordable student loan that will have maybe zero or little interest upon maybe employment when these persons have graduated from university and is now doing maybe a suitable job. The government can provide a student loan program. And for Liberia, where scholarship is awarded based on political lines, there can be a proper channel where the Ministry of Education or the National Commission on Higher Education can organize a framework where scholarship will be awarded to deserving students through a transparent and a competitive based process that will enable more competition among universities. And then the communities too can get involved by having what we call a community fund initiative, where we will be able to spark potential individuals that are disadvantaged or are from a disadvantaged family and will not have any further opportunity. Because the thing here is that if you look at what happens in Liberia is that people who are of privileged family have the opportunity to go to college and complete college education. But if you are unfortunate to be from an unprivileged family, which is in the majority, the possibility is not. It's very hard for you to go to university, most especially when you are in private institution, where you talk about paying transportation, accommodation for housing, this and that. So free tuition could help the subsidizing of private university from government basically to reduce tuition and cost for private schools or private universities. It could be again another thing government can do in making sure that we have more people enrolling into universities.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel Polignan, for being on the show today. We really appreciate you, and we'll keep in touch with you for another intriguing discussion. Thank you so kindly. All right, let's also hear from Daniel. Daniel, as we take leave of you, what would you like to say to government, policymakers, including university administrations, and as well as parents? How can we address this situation?
Okay, I think one of the ways to actually solve this is, integrating vocational skills into our learning systems. Most of the times, young people are going through secondary school, they are saying they're teaching them vocational skills, or what they're actually learning there is not what would really benefit them outside. When I was in school, I think I had to choose a vocational skill, and the things that were stated there, I think fishery, catering, and all that, but these things were not even properly taught. So I wasn't empowered after, doing this in school as of then. But if this is integrated into, our secondary, level of education, before someone leaves secondary school, they should have something doing. Then, as regards to the government, like I said earlier, over here in Nigeria, as a student schooling in a government school, you are eligible to, get a loan from the government to pay your tuition fee, and then also get stipends monthly. And since this administration has been in office, about over 500,000 students in Nigeria have actually benefited from this.
Okay, yeah, that's important because just someone from
Yeah.
the Facebook page or the live feed, I think Masid Wall Peters is asking, what is the percentages of students benefiting from the loan to study in Nigeria you're talking about? I think this question.
You can search online Nelfund database. That's the loan scheme name is Nelfund. So you can go online. The data is there.
Okay.
Over here in my school, over 3,000 students actually benefiting because I am the NEL fund rep for my school here. So I'm the one facilitating it for the students over here. So I have the data of the number of students that have actually benefited from the student loan.
Okay.
And then over to the organizations that award scholarship. I think scholarships are no longer awarded to students based on financial background or as financial aid anymore, because most times students getting these scholarships are not even people who need it. Some of them are already well doing, but then they are the ones that get the scholarship because most times it's performance based, or you need to know someone or know something the others don't know to get a scholarship, which I don't think is fair enough. If they want to give support to those who are less privileged, then it should be made free and fair and accessible to even those who have zero knowledge about maybe what the organization is about.
All right. Thank you so much, Daniel, for being with us today. We really appreciate you, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, before I get to you, Mugonga, quickly, let me just read. See Moritz Alius, he says, comment on the live. He says, here are my views as it relates to the issue. Why do you struggle to attend college or university? Since I'm a university student from Liberia, I shall weigh in. Number one, weak foundation before they even get there. Most students don't survive the early grades. Primary school completion was only 10% for boys and 11% for girls, according to UNESCO. And 48% of 15 to 24 years olds have at most an incomplete primary education, according to the EPDC. Well, because of time, let me just go to the second one. He says, cost. Government primary schools are technically free but often lack basic facilities, so many families turn to private schools. Bottom line, it's less that Liberia youth avoid college and more that of fragile primary or secondary system, higher private school costs, and lingering post-war infrastructure gaps filter most students out well before university becomes reachable. And James M. Karimu says he's following from Grand Kitma County. Well, that's it. But let's just hear from you quickly. How are you living the young people, Mugonga, as we take leave of you today?
Sorry?
Yes, what message do you have for
the young
people? These people struggling to achieve quality education.
I would tell them not to lose hope. You get the point. That's the first thing. But the message now is it more goes not for the young people, because as we said, the young people don't know where they're going. They are striving. But now the message is this. Before I even go further, I want to give a big shout out for the embassy as an international student, because I have been going through all the struggles and that every student goes through. But then there are some things that can be done to cope with that. You get a point. That's when that's why I'm telling you I'm shouting out to the embassy, because they have done a little bit
and
of
that's,
something.
That's from the government angle, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But I thank you so much for being here today, and I appreciate you. Can we hear from you too, Yasin, quickly?
Yeah. So one thing that I want to share is that I know we are here talking about the problems and finding solutions, but of course there are things that are beautifully done in our country. I myself am a beneficiary of a scholarship from ECOWAS in my master's degree. And also I would like to say that we should promote more, our government should promote more hybrid learning. I do online classes and on-site classes.
Oh, great.
And I would like to say one more thing. We all know that talent is everywhere. Motivation is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And we need to close that gap. And it's everyone's job.
Thank you so much, Yasin, for being here today. Well, listeners and viewers, that's it on this edition of Take the Lead on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for being with us today. Join us next Friday for another live edition. But remember to take the lead in shaping the discourse for the betterment of young people in Africa. My name is Augustine Curley. I will speak with you another time. Goodbye for now. Thanks, man. Hey!
Hey people, my name is Mello, Afrobeat singer from Guinea, and I love listening to the program Take the Lead on West Africa Democracy Radio.
Hello, my name is Fatou Bintou Rassoukane. I'm the CEO of African Start Shop, and I love listening to your program Take the Lead on West Africa Democracy Radio.